everybody, my name is Markiplier and welcome to Five Nights at Freddy's.
Whether you love it or hate it, you can't deny that Five Nights at Freddy's is no doubt a highly influential series. Over the past 12 years, these games have had various levels of influence on each other, on the fan base, and just in general. Today, I'd like to dive into every mainline game in the series and determine which of them had the biggest and most influential impact across it. There's 12 of these games to go over, and I figured the best way to do this is a ranking of sorts. I'm going to go through all the mainline FNAF games in order of how influential or impactful they are and explain why. It's going to be a long one, so let's not waste any more time. So how exactly can I rank how impactful every FNAF game was? It's certainly a complicated subject, so I've come up with 5 main metrics to measure each game. The first of these is using the videos from major YouTubers. I've chosen 3 channels that I personally grew up with for this metric. It's not perfect, and it might not be the channels you would go with, but I needed to just pick 3. The big 3 I picked are Markiplier, Game Theory, and Corey. I've counted up all the views from each series of videos, how many they each posted, and any outliers that are contained within the series. The next metric is the trailers. This will include view counts along with how memorable they were in general. Metric number 3 is FNAF's popularity in search terms over time. The 4th metric is the animatronics. This will be how iconic they are, how the designs have shaped the series, how often they're used, stuff like that. The last metric is the actual legacy of each game. This one is probably the most important. With these 5 categories in mind, we can start with the first game on the list. Ultimate Custom Night is our first game, coming in dead last at number 12 on the ranking. In terms of the metrics, it actually does fairly strong in views. I mean, they all perform very well in views, it is Five Nights at Freddy's, but for this game the number is surprising. It's racked up 234 million across the 3 sources, Markiplier at 112 million over 5 videos, Corey at 47 million over 3, and Game Theory at 75 million over 3. Why are these numbers so surprising to me though? We haven't gone through any of the other games yet, but comparing the views per vid to other videos shows what I mean. For Mark, this game's lowest viewed video is 9.3 million, which beats out every Help Wanted 2 and Secret of the Mimic video from him besides the first in each game. The total views across the videos beat out a few of the other games as well, including FNAF 6. Aside from the view counts, all the other metrics here are pretty weak, which is why this game is placed in dead last in terms of influence. It got 1 trailer, which looks fan-made, but is still present on the game's Steam page. It has 104,000 views, which is certainly a lot, but nothing compared to any of the other trailers we will be going over. The thing about Ultimate Custom Night is that it really didn't need a trailer at all. Five Nights at Freddy's as a whole was in a very good spot around this time. Not only that, it was also over, in a way. After FNAF 6, nobody really knew what was going to come after, so this was just a great little bonus to a complete series of games. The third metric being the Google Trends chart, which has the search term Five Nights at Freddy's, at a 17 in popularity when the game released in June of 2018. It had little to no impact on the overall chart. It didn't make the series more popular or less, it just kept it the same. Our 4th category, the animatronics, doesn't really apply to this game. Sure, it did indeed give a ton of the cast a few voice lines, making each that slightest bit more memorable, but that's it. It didn't add anyone new, and doesn't feature any notably significant designs that people talk about. The last metric here is the hype and legacy of the game. UCN is in a weird spot here. On one hand, it was the last game of the originals, making it somewhat significant in that way. On the other hand though, it was just a silly final game made for the fans to challenge themselves. You can talk about the lore or whatever, but it's insignificant compared to any of the other games. It did bring a big chunk of the fans together, searching for a way to solve the tantalizing 50-20 mode. I know everyone remembers that one clip of Daco absolutely losing it after beating the mode, and that will always be an iconic moment in the community. The game itself, though, in my experience, is rarely talked about in the modern day. Since 50/20 is beat now, and there's a whole strategy for it, that's the game. Its purpose wasn't to define the series. It was just a gift from Scott to the fans after he was done with the original 6. It was never meant to have a huge impact, and thus never did. It's a great game for sure. I mean, obviously it was. We got Mr. Hippo's stories from it after all.
These things happen, and life goes on. Not for you, obviously. You're dead. But it reminds me of a...
At number 11, we have the Ruin DLC for Security Breach. While not technically a game on its own, it stands out enough for me to mention it in this list. That's because it's completely different from the base game, and often separated, especially when talking about it the way I am in this video. Starting with views, it's one of the lower ones on the list. It sits at 59.3 million with Markiplier's 7 videos, 26.5 million on Game Theory's 4, and 12 million on Corey's 1, totaling 97.8 million views. Obviously an impressive number, but not so much when looking at the other titles. It does far better than UCN in terms of the trailers, having 7 million views on its one and only. This thing came out during a random week in May of 2023, and I still remember it so well because this specific week was insane for FNAF announcements. We got this, the teaser for Help Wanted 2, and the first movie teaser. It was crazy. I miss those times. On Google Trends, this series was sitting at a 31 in July of 2023 for its release. Again, hard to tell if this was because of Ruin specifically, or just the general hype that FNAF had that year. The fourth of these metrics is the animatronics. The Ruin animatronics are very cool designs, but you never really hear people talking about them at all. I think the issue is that the game just doesn't make them super memorable. There are scripted scenes with each, but rarely do these have a big impact on the player. The one exception I can think of is Roxy, and the game does a decent job at showing how much more important she is to Cassie than any of the other ones are. The real stars with the animatronics are Mexis and the Mimic. Both are very recognizable characters within the series, and the designs work well. Mexis specifically stands out here just for being so different from anything else we know. The Mimic is, well, the Mimic, so it's no wonder why he's being mentioned here. Even with these two though, I feel the game isn't super strong in terms of the animatronics. It's also not very strong with its legacy, the last metric. It has some stuff going for it, but nothing crazy. It was a completely free DLC for the biggest game in the series to date, so that's pretty cool. I think the problem with Ruin, and why it's ranking so low on this list, is how incomplete it is. Not in terms of the game, it's very complete and surprisingly polished, but in terms of the story. It's in a weird spot because it just ends on a complete cliffhanger, something that FNAF doesn't really do all that often. This game came out in 2023, and we've seen not a single sign of it being continued. The most we have for any teaser currently is this vague water park photo, nothing to do with the Ruin 2, I don't think anyways. In its current state, Ruin just isn't that impactful. It's got the potential, but we just have to wait and see what happens. Ruin being so far down here is crazy, especially once you see where Security Breach ended up on this list. Help Wanted 2, like most of the games here, was difficult to place, but I decided on number 10. Let's get into the statistics. It has 66.6 million over the 3 channels I picked, but that's not the full story. This game is lacking a ton of content from 2 of the 3 channels. Markiplier has 61.2 million over 14 videos, and Game Theory has 5.4 on 1. Corey didn't play this game, so results here are skewed a bit. Even so, you can compare the views on each of Mark's videos to any of his previous ones. They're fairly low. This is why we have the other categories though, to account for missing data. The second category isn't much better. This game got 1 trailer, if you can even call it that, which has 1.7 million views. At this point in the video, you, the viewers, don't have much context on why this number is bad yet, but you'll see with the later games. The first good stat here is the Google Trends chart. It's at a 50 in December of 2023. This isn't exactly accurate though. The thing with this one is that you may know something else came out around this time that was the slightest bit bigger than this game. I'm of course talking about the movie. It's impossible to tell how the game actually affected the chart because of this, but I assume it really didn't do much. You may be wondering why this game is higher than the last two, and we'll get there. The next metric is the animatronics, and there's nothing new here. Well, Carney exists, and I suppose Mystic Hippo, but that's it. The real thing that I think puts this game above the last two is the legacy. To start, it's a VR game, which already makes it better. The games within are also just super fun and memorable, and due to the variation, replayable. The big thing here with Help Wanted 2 is the endings. There's 2 of them, 3 after the update. The one where you get put in a staff bot is fine, but the real substance is the other 2. Princess Quest shows the true end of an era, killing the glitch trap virus for good, and with it, any remains of Afton. The other ending is significant because it's something Five Nights at Freddy's has rarely ever done. They added a whole new ending to the game, specifically to tease the next one. This game isn't too memorable, but it does have more substance going for it than the previous 2. It's very hard to rank these lower games, as none of them stand out a ton, but it only gets better from here. Before we continue, consider giving the video a like if you're enjoying it, and subscribe if you want to see more FNAF videos like this one. It would help out the channel a ton. That's it. Back to the ranking. At number 9, we have Secret of the Mimic. Like the others, this was tough to place on the list, so let's go over the metrics. This one got 97.2 million views across the 3 channels. Markiplier has 33.8 million over 8 videos, Corey has 57 million over 4 videos, and Game Theory has 6.4 million over 3 videos. Not bad numbers, but really not that much for Five Nights at Freddy's. I haven't mentioned it yet, but the way I'm counting the Game Theory videos is ones that were released close-ish to the time the game came out and that have the game in the title or thumbnail. You can't expect me to watch every Game Theory video, especially the newer ones. As for the trailers, it got 5.7 million views across 7 videos. Compared to some of the games we're covering later, this is not very good. As for the trends number, it was 19 in June of 2025. It's pretty low, not that great. Reminder that we also got the Dead by Daylight chapter release around this time, so this number could easily be affected by that release. Next is the animatronics. This game takes a very different approach than most of the other ones. These characters don't look like anything that we saw before. Mostly. Obviously there's Big Top and even a version of Chica, but the aesthetics of these characters are very unique for the series. Whether or not people enjoy them or talk about them is another story. It's undeniable that these designs, especially Jackie, are fairly recognizable at least. As for the legacy of Secret of the Mimic, well, it's too early to tell. I think so far the game has been mostly forgotten by anyone who isn't a super deep lore enthusiast. It's not a typical FNAF game. It's not about sitting in the office, it's not a massive free roam, and it's not a collection of VR minigames. It did get a VR port, but don't even get me started on that. Only time will tell what people think of this one. It feels like a divisive game, although it also feels so overlooked and ignored by most. I guess we'll just have to wait and see what happens. This is where things start to get good. Number 8 brings us FNAF 4. Starting with the view numbers, they're very high. Across the 3 channels we're analyzing, it has 379 million views. Markiplier has 260 over 8 videos, Corey has 21 over 9 videos, and Game Theory has 98 million over just 4. One of those is the iconic stream where Scott was using his site to talk to the stream live. It's moments like those that I really miss within this series. Even the trailer is pretty high up there, getting 25 million on just the one single video. It's clear that this game was around the peak hype for OG FNAF. The Google Trends numbers disagree, being at a 31 in July of 2015. It's lower than games around it, but higher than most of the graph elsewhere. The animatronics are next, and where do I even begin? The nightmares, as they're called, are very controversial in the community. Some, like me, think that these designs are some of the most terrifying within the entire franchise. Others will tell you that they're far too over the top to actually be any scary. Regardless of whichever take you have, it's impossible to deny just how iconic the designs are. Everybody knows what the nightmares look like. For a lot of people, they play into that childhood fear of not knowing what's lurking in the dark, so expecting the worst. They're very recognizable. The actual legacy of Five Nights at Freddy's 4 is troubling. The teasers were at a high point in terms of execution and design. They teased the Bite of 87, they mentioned Fredbears, and they presented the game as the final chapter. They were building up FNAF 4 to be answers to so many questions the community had at the time. It's 11 years later, and we still don't have these answers. That's why it's hard to rank FNAF 4, mostly because of the lore. Not only did it not answer anything, it actually created countless more questions, I think unintentionally. I haven't even mentioned the big thing yet, the one thing in this game that we will never know. I'm of course talking about the box. It's lost to time what was meant to be in it, and as a result has impacted the theory space forever. People still make videos on what this thing could have contained, but we'll never know the real answer. Overall, FNAF 4 is a mixed bag, but it no doubt has left a somewhat significant impact on the series. Despite this, the next games are still far more impactful and influential. Coming in at number 7 on the ranking is FNAF 2. These numbers are crazy yet again, so let's get to it. Across the 3 channels, the videos have been viewed a total of 295 million times, nearly 5 times that of Help Wanted 2. Markiplier has 251 million over 7 videos, Corey has 16.7 million over 10, and Game Theory got 27 million on their single FNAF 2 video. These numbers alone I think make this game fairly influential already. The trailer number is just as crazy, having 27 million views on the one single trailer Scott posted on his channel. In just sheer views, this game is one of the biggest. This is also added onto by the Google Trends number. It was 24 in November of 2014, which doesn't seem like a whole lot, but it is still big. The reason for this is, well, look at the graph. Before this, there was nothing. It was the first game that started to really make FNAF popular. No doubt the first game was a hit, but this one spiked it up to heights that no one could have ever imagined at the time. The numbers are very strong with this one, and it doesn't stop there. The next category is animatronics. This game has quite a few of them, many being just iconic at this point. Whether you look at the toys or the wizards, they're all very recognizable. Despite me absolutely hating the toy animatronics, I can admit that they're some of the most influential designs within the series. The wizards are more underrated, clearly shown by their disappointing screen time within the second movie. Even so, we all have these scenes of them in the office engraved in our heads. These animatronics also clearly inspired the ruined characters to an extent. There's no doubt that these designs are iconic, not to mention the puppet originating in this very game. FNAF 2 also has a fairly solid legacy. It was the first game to do a lot of different things. It was the first to do teasers on Scott's site. Not only that, it was also the first to start hiding things within these teasers by brightening them. It paved the way for Scott to do even crazier and more advanced things with them. FNAF 2 also continued to innovate the series within the games itself. It's got so many mechanics that are now iconic to the series. Winding the box, using the flashlight, and of course the ever popular mask, who could forget. The impact of these things cannot go unnoticed within the rest of the future games. Not only that, this game was the first to really try to build an actual story. FNAF 1 had a story, of course, but Scott didn't plan to make any more games after it. When it came time to make a sequel, he had very little to actually build on, and he did very well with what he had. As if the story or the teasers or the mechanics weren't enough, this game was also the first to feature the now iconic 8-bit minigames. FNAF 2 introduced countless new things to the series that are now engraved within the foundation of this franchise. With Five Nights at Freddy's 2 adding so many important things, you may be wondering why it doesn't rank higher. Well, it's simple really. This series has a lot of heavy hitters, and while FNAF 2 is one of them, there's 6 other games that I think did more for it. It's a solid entry nonetheless, despite my personal dislike for it. At number 6, we have Help Wanted. There's a lot to go over here. First though, the views. This game has 270 million views over the 3 channels, but Corey didn't even play it. Markiplier got 195 million over 17 videos, and Game Theory got 75 million over 6. While not the largest number you'll see in this video, it is impressive how high up there it is considering the lack of any views on one of 3 channels picked for the video. The trailers are a complete opposite. This was the first game in the series to get multiple trailers, yet it's one of the lowest for views. It got 518,000 views over 3 trailers posted by Steel Wool. I have one video that has more than that, so that's pretty bad. In terms of the trends chart, it was sitting at a 15 in May of 2019 when the game released, which is not that great. Now, it would seem like there's not a whole lot to talk about with the animatronics, but that's actually not the case. Sure, it only added one significant new character, being Glitchtrap, but the substance here comes from the actual models themselves. When it comes to being impactful or influential, it doesn't necessarily mean that they were good. These models are very controversial, to say the least. From what I've seen, they're generally disliked by a large chunk of the community, and I can certainly see why. There was no reason for Scott to not just give Steel Wool the actual models for these characters. Even so, I don't think they're the worst things ever. I actually think that people are a little too harsh about these ones. Now, some of them can't be excused, such as Springtrap, but they're not all that atrocious. This game also has the Dreadbear DLC, but no one in that pack plays any significant role anywhere else and doesn't have a meaningful impact on the series. They are pretty cool designs though. The animatronics in this game don't really matter all too much anyways, except for Glitchtrap. His impact on the series is enough to make Help Wanted one of the higher ranking just in terms of the animatronics. The last thing to talk about is this game's legacy. This was Steel Wool's first Five Nights at Freddy's game, and as such it plays a large role in what the series has become. It was also FNAF's first VR title, a medium that is now pretty ingrained into the core of this series. FNAF fits perfectly in VR, and it's still a great experience to this very day. Sure, the game wasn't perfect, but it was more of what the community wanted. You can ask most people in the fandom who hate the modern games, and they'll tell you that Help Wanted was good. Of course, it also had some controversies, like using fan models in a surprisingly high number of places in the game, but overall it turned out as a good experience. I also haven't mentioned the story and lore aspects either. This game was a massive shift for the story, and it kinda had to be. Continuing FNAF after the 6th game was kind of impossible without something like this. Whether good or bad, it no doubt created the possibility for these games to still be releasing to this day. Speaking of FNAF 6, it takes the number 5 spot in this list. Despite the small number of videos, it still got an impressive 183 million across the 3 channels. Markiplier had 100 million over 5 videos, Corey had 21 million over 3, and Game Theory had 62 million over 4. In terms of the trailers, well, this game didn't really get one. Despite this, its number on Google Trends was 23 in December of 2017 when the game was released. That's it for the numbers, but they're not really the strong suit of this game. This game doesn't necessarily shine with the animatronics either. Sure, there's a lot here, but a majority of them are filler characters. The four big ones are Scrap Baby, Scrap Trap, Lefty, and Molten Freddy. At this point in the series, this was all that was left of the company that was Fazbear Entertainment. All of the souls that were still around were in these four husks of metal. They're all significant for slightly different yet very obvious reasons. I don't think I really need to explain it. The point is that they're all super important, making the cast here very impactful. In terms of the actual designs, they're okay for the most part, except for Scrap Trap. We haven't seen them appear very often. UCN barely counts. Lefty and Scrap Baby are in one level of helpful on it too, and that's it, I think. The real impact of this game, and why it ranks so high on this list, is the legacy of it. FNAF 6 was essentially shadow dropped for free. No one had any idea that it was going to be anything until they actually played it. And with the little marketing it had, was presented as nothing more than just a pizzeria simulator. Despite that, this game is one of the hardest hitting for multiple reasons, mainly the lore. This was the end of the original games. Not only was it the end, but it was one of, if not the best ending we've ever seen in any of the games in this series. Also, it was the first game in the series to give so many answers. It didn't answer everything, none of these games do, but it answered a majority of the larger questions within the community at the time. As with all of these games, it did introduce questions as well, the famous example here being Midnight Motorist. This is one of the most overanalyzed things within the series, even still being talked about to this day. This one minigame has left a scar of, at this point, slop within the content creation space, and I don't think it will ever heal from that. Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria Simulator is one that I and many others will never forget. Number 4 on the list brings us to Fazbear's Fright. FNAF 3 has a solid 270 million views over the 3 channels. Markiplier got 197 million over 7 videos, and Game Theory got 59 million over 3. Corey has 14 million over 7, although the good ending video is 6.3 million of those alone. FNAF 3 also has the most views across all the games in terms of trailers. Kind of. It got 34 million on one single trailer. In terms of Google Trends, FNAF 3 is one of the highest across the entire series, being at a 40 in March of 2015. This game has a ton of big things in it. I mean, that's why it's so high up in the list, but the biggest thing is probably Springtrap. Now, you may think I'm being biased because, I am Springtrap, but I promise you this time I'm not. This guy that got trapped in a mechanical fursuit is undeniably the most influential character in all of FNAF. There's so many reasons for this being the case. First is obvious. The design is simply the best of anything Scott Cawthon ever put his hands on. The series' main killer, now trapped in a prison of his own making. It's just peak writing and design. He's a highly memorable villain. Another reason why this suit is so impactful doesn't even have to do with FNAF. Springtrap has risen from a cool design in an indie horror game to a mainstream killer that nearly anyone can recognize. The most direct example of this is his addition in Dead by Daylight. Seeing Springtrap among characters like Ghostface, Jason, Michael Myers, that's just insane. He's so iconic, and no other character that comes out of FNAF will ever have the impact that he does. The last thing here is FNAF 3's legacy. Where do I even begin with this one? Similar to FNAF 6, it features one of the most memorable endings within the series. I kind of talked about this in my video on FNAF Sound, but this ending is just so perfect. This game was the end of the original trilogy, and for that alone, its impact is substantial. It was the perfect way to end those games, putting most of the souls to rest. A lot of people don't particularly like the actual gameplay a whole lot, but the story around it is very well received. Another aspect of this game that is very memorable are the 8-bit minigames. FNAF 2 introduced them, but FNAF 3 went all in with the concept. These games are ingrained in the heads of every FNAF fan, especially the one where you have to type a number into some random wall tiles. It's crazy that people ever figured that one out, and quickly too. Happiest Day is obviously the most memorable, as all the souls of the kids are finally set free. This game and its impact on the series will always be remembered, and with a legacy like that, it's hard to imagine how anything beat it out on this list. Regardless, we now enter the top 3 most influential games in the entire series. Coming in at number 3 is none other than Sister Location. Starting with the views, it gathered a total of 376 million over the 3 test channels. That's an insane number. Markiplier got 248 million over 10 videos, Corey got 27 million over 5, and Game Theory got 101 million over 6. It's not just the YouTubers that got high views though. Sister Location Trailer 1 got 34 million views. Trailer 2, well, we haven't gotten a trailer 2 yet, but maybe one day. Still, that first trailer is nearly tied with FNAF 3. As for the Google Trends, it's sitting at a 36 in October of 2016 and is a fairly large spike on the graph. The animatronics of Sister Location are some of the most unique across the series. Sure, there's Freddy and Foxy, but there's still a drastic change from anything before and a long time after. People love these things, and while I personally don't like them all that much, I can admit that they're still well made. The whole idea of Afton being some crazy scientist trying to figure out immortality by designing animatronics that kidnap and kill kids is certainly an idea. This cast also has Circus Baby within, easily one of the most important yet underused characters in the entire series. She goes criminally underused, especially for how important she really is. The legacy of Sister Location is unforgettable. It was a complete shift in direction for the series. FNAF was always a sci-fi series, no doubt, with ghosts possessing these massive walking animatronics, but this is where it really goes in depth with the sci-fi, a whole underground facility designed to study Remnant using these advanced machines. It was such a stark change. It's not just the story aspect of this game though that makes it a massive shift, it's also the game itself. Up until that point, all the games were about sitting in a place and surviving. Sure, you moved a bit in FNAF 4, but that hardly counts. This one has you traverse an entire location, moving from room to room doing different things. You're not just playing the same night with a harder difficulty, each one is unique. Whether these nights are actually good or not is up to you, but it was indeed unique. Another massive thing here was the voice acting. Before this, the only voice we ever had was Phone Guy / Dude, voiced by the one and only Scott Cawthon. This game had loads of voices though. Not only that, but the actors here are now iconic throughout the whole series. They all do an incredible job in their roles too, giving these characters life and personality that was never possible up to that point. Like I said before, this game was a turning point. Sister Location was, and still is, one of the most influential games in the series, but there's still 2 more to go over. The number 2 spot on this list will be going to Security Breach. Across the 3 test channels, this game has accumulated just over 500 million views. Markiplier got 264 million over 10 videos, Corey got 165 million over 8, and Game Theory got 72 million over 11. The trailers also put up a good showing, although not as much as some of the other games. It has 25.5 million views over 7 videos, which includes the Freddy and Friends on Tour videos. This game is the highest number reached by a game on the Google Trends chart, reaching 51 in December of 2021 and a staggering 84 the following month. The only thing that beats out Security Breach on this graph is October and November of 2023, when the first movie was released. As if the numbers don't already speak for the game, the animatronics are very iconic. Everybody knows what the Glamrocks look like. These characters blow every other set of animatronics out of the water when it comes to personality. They're sad, happy, even scared sometimes. It's not just the personalities, but the designs too. Are they scary? Absolutely not. These guys are not scary in the slightest. Maybe not the best for a supposed horror game, but regardless, the designs are iconic just for the looks. They're so unique from anything else in Five Nights at Freddy's. The fun times are the closest thing, but even they just don't really compare. Whether you personally love or hate them, it's impossible to not acknowledge that these designs are iconic. It keeps going too. While Vanny isn't an animatronic, she's the first human character that we actually get to see on screen. She's most similar to Glitchtrap, with the stitched and thrown together costume. The reason she's iconic isn't necessarily a good one though. It's not because of her design or her personality like the Glamrocks, it's because she is, yet again, criminally underused. The characters in this game are iconic and impactful for so many different reasons. The Glamrocks, with the exception of Monty, were greatly used within games after Security Breach, mainly Help Wanted 2. Now onto this game's legacy, and I don't really know where to start. It's complicated to say the least. It's easily the most divisive game in the series. Some adore it for the personality of the characters, the bright and flashy visuals, and the intriguing story. Others hate this game for the very same reasons. I made a whole video on the lost content in this game, which makes it into an entirely different game that never got to see the light of day. The marketing of this game doesn't match the outcome, and that has impacted FNAF to this very day. Gone are the days of those flashy big trailers. Now we're lucky to get more than a small teaser that doesn't really show anything at all. It's not just that though, it's also the story. This game took a turn from Help Wanted, a big one too. Vanny and Glitchtrap were built up in that game, only for both to seemingly be thrown away in Security Breach. It got so bad that we needed books to help the theorists, which only led to more confusion. Ruin was created as a fix to bring the story back on track. I'm not deep enough into the lore of these games, especially this one, to fully explain it, but the impact is undeniable. The last game on this list is none other than the original Five Nights at Freddy's. Starting with views, this game has a respectable 363 million views, most of which going to Markiplier. He had 307 million over 5 videos, Corey with 21 million over 7, and Game Theory with 35 million on their first video. It's important to note that with Mark, the first episode alone is the most viewed FNAF video on his whole channel, sitting at 129 million. In terms of trailer views, it has 17 million on Scott's channel. The weird thing about this one is that it was also posted on IGN and has 19 million on there, for a combined total of 36 million. That makes it the most viewed FNAF trailer to date, obviously not counting the movies. As for Google Trends, it hits a 4 in August of 2014. Not great, but also not a perfect statistic for determining how impactful the game really is. As for the animatronics, it's fairly obvious what I'm about to say. The core 4 are easily the most iconic in the series, no doubt. I mean, it's where it all started. None of these other characters or spin-off designs would have existed without them. The designs are perfect for this game. Simple and very effective. These guys have appeared in many other places in the series in one way or another. There's not too much to actually say about them besides that. Yellow Bear was also here, and he's one of the main reasons why this game became so popular in the first place. And a moment that no one will forget, and is probably one of the most iconic things across like FNAF as a whole ever.
Okay, I'll leave you to it. See you on the flip side.
Oh god! What the f? What the f? Okay? Not okay! I was just listening to a nice conversation!
What can I possibly say about this game's legacy that hasn't been said already? Five Nights at Freddy's as a series originated from this small indie game. That's why this game is at the top of the list. What else could I have possibly put here? There's no other game in the series that has had as big of an impact or influence. It's that simple. The story, the visuals, the boom it had in 2014 on YouTube, it was all a perfect storm to birth the phenomenon that is FNAF. I won't go too in depth, because you've seen 10 million videos already talking about it. For the point of this video, FNAF 1 is and will always remain as the most important and influential game within this series. Simply nothing can beat the hype and discussion around this game. With that, we reach the end of this video. Almost. I want to go over a couple of interesting facts before I go, along with looking at comments from my own viewers. First, this is the final ranking if you were curious. Next, across every game on the 3 channels I used for views, FNAF videos were viewed a total of 3.1 billion times. That's just insane to think about. As for comments, I got a lot of them on the post where I asked about this topic. Security Breach was by far the most mentioned, followed by FNAF 1, Pizza Sim, and Sister Location getting quite a few mentions as well. A few people also said that it wasn't one specific game, rather the first 4 in general. Not a single person mentioned Ultimate Custom Night, Help Wanted 2, or Secret of the Mimic. I hope you enjoyed the video. This one took a lot of time. If you enjoy videos like this and want to see them early, along with some other very cool perks, consider becoming a channel member. I launched them along with this video, and I tried as hard as possible to make the perks worth the money. This channel is fairly inconsistent with the income it produces, so having a more consistent way to earn would absolutely allow me to do longer videos like this one way more often, and pursue some of the bigger ambitions I have planned for the future. Thank you so much for watching, like the video if you like it, and subscribe for plenty more FNAF content. Goodbye for now, and I'll see you all next time. Goodbye, superstars.